Captain, 15 clicks off the deck.
Hey guys, Ollie here with a review of Halo 3 ODST for the Master Chief Collection. ODST, as you may recall, was originally released for the Xbox 360 way back in 2009, which makes me feel a little old. Nonetheless, now almost 6 years later, developer 343 Industries has brought the campaign over to Xbox One with a new coat of paint. This comes as a freebie for early adopters of the Chief Collection, myself included, who had to suffer through some online woes over the holiday season. For everyone else, though, it's going to set you back $5. So, with that in mind, should you prepare to drop a second time? Let's find out. ODST begins on a UNSC carrier above the African megacity of New Mombasa, which you may recall from Halo 2, as you and your team of orbital drop shock troopers get ready to deploy on a Covenant ship below. Predictably, things go wrong real quick.
We're going in hard!
And you awake hours after a large explosion, separated from the rest of your squad. It's your job as the Rookie, the game's silent protagonist, to wander the lonely streets of New Mombasa and find clues as to the whereabouts of the rest of your squad.
What's her name, Gunny? Ms. Naval Intelligence. Our new boss.
It's when you find these clues that the game flashes back to earlier moments in the day and you play from the perspective of one of the other ODSTs. It's a really fun and interesting way to tell a story that's been employed in many other mediums before, but not often in games. This non-linear approach makes ODST something of a detective story and a nice contrast to the bombastic space operas of the other Halo games. In addition, the inclusion of Sadie's story, a series of audio logs that follow the struggle of a young girl after the initial Covenant attack on Earth, is well told and complements the Rookie's lonely treks perfectly.
I don't think so. There are too many Covenant in that district. I'd like to take you somewhere much more private.
Overall, there's just something very unique about the story in ODST versus the other Halo titles. It's much more thoughtful, intriguing, and dare I say, mellow. There's something about being alone in ODST's open environment that just irks of goodness, and if you're picking up the game for the story, I can't recommend it enough.
So check your mouths, find your chairs, and get set for a combat drop.
Wait for me!
Looking at the gunplay on display in ODST, it becomes immediately clear from the get-go that you are not one of the series' well-known super soldiers, but a simple human, albeit one with the throwing arm of a quarterback, but a weaker soldier nonetheless. What this adds up to is a game you have to play a bit more carefully. You can't take as many hits, and your shields don't recharge as fast. In addition, the inclusion of health packs and fall damage means you're always on your toes wondering where your next recharge is going to come from.
Better?
Where these changes really influence the game and indeed shine is in the Rookie sections, where you're alone and surrounded with randomly deployed Covenant. Stealth becomes a viable option, especially on the higher difficulties, reinforcing the feeling of somber terror that permeates the game. The title has its flaws though, namely it lacks the Horde-style firefight mode from the original release. This isn't really a deal breaker and the game can stand on its own without it, especially for the $5 price tag, but it's a shame to see it gone. Overall, ODST can still count itself among the best of the Halo games, even without all the original features.
Get this thing off of me!
Banshees on your 6! Hit the deck!
Despite being a little long into the tooth in the use of the Halo 3 engine, ODST has actually aged fairly well from a visual standpoint. Even without all the improvements, it was always a charming game with a wonderful art style and sense of place in the Halo universe. Nonetheless, like the other two Xbox 360 titles in the Master Chief Collection, ODST has been up-resed, though in the case of its HUD, simply upscaled. Really the only unfortunate part of the new version, though, is that often without the visor engaged in the city, it can look a little bit too glossy. The frame rate, meanwhile, has been given a bump to 60 frames per second, though there are areas where this dips, but it's never really enough to impact the gameplay. Composer Martin O'Donnell's original score is still intact and it's as jazzy and nuanced as ever. In fact, the soundtrack might actually be the most memorable part of the game, dutifully driving the action forward at all times. It goes without saying then that this is the prettiest version of ODST out there, and a substantial improvement over the already existing Xbox 360 version. An improved presentation and wonderful atmosphere serve to make ODST a great value for both first-timers and returning fans. Whether you've played it or not already, this is undoubtedly the best version. The lack of a firefight game mode is disappointing, but for $5, ODST still proves to be well worth the price of entry.